It happened so quietly that at first I didn't even realize my life had just shifted, the kind of moment that doesn't announce itself with noise or drama but instead slips in softly and settles deep in your chest, the kind you replay later and realize everything before it felt simpler, because one second I was standing there trying to act normal, trying not to think too hard, and the next she stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath, her hand brushing against my arm as she leaned in and whispered, "I promise to keep our secret safe," and in that instant my mind froze, my heart raced, and I knew that whatever we had just crossed couldn't be uncrossed. So let me take you back to where it all started, back before there were secrets, before whispers, before guilt tangled with something that felt dangerously close to comfort, back to when things were easy and I was just a guy who spent way too much time at my best friend's house, because that's where I practically lived. We'd known each other for years, the kind of friendship built on late-night gaming sessions, inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else, and an unspoken understanding that we'd always have each other's backs. His house felt like a second home, his parents treated me like family, and his sister was always just there in the background, never the focus, never someone I really thought about. She was younger than him, quieter, always doing her own thing, and if I'm being honest, I barely noticed her at all in the beginning. She was just my best friend's sister, nothing more, nothing complicated, until slowly, without any warning, that started to change, not all at once, not in some dramatic way, but in these small moments that felt insignificant at first, like staying up later than usual talking in the kitchen after everyone else had gone to bed, or sharing a laugh over something stupid that shouldn't have been funny, or realizing she understood me in a way that surprised me, because she listened, really listened, and asked questions no one else ever bothered to ask, and I remember thinking that it was harmless, that it didn't mean anything, that I was overthinking it, but there was this growing awareness, this tension that crept in quietly, the kind that makes you hyper-aware of where someone is in a room, the kind that makes silence feel heavier than words, and the more I noticed it, the more I tried to ignore it, because there was an invisible line I knew I wasn't supposed to cross, a line labeled loyalty, respect, common sense, and yet every time we talked, every shared glance, that line felt thinner, easier to step over, and I hated myself a little for noticing, for wondering, for feeling something I shouldn't, because my best friend trusted me completely, and the idea of betraying that trust made my stomach twist. But feelings don't care about logic, and they don't ask permission, they just show up and demand to be dealt with. And then came the night everything shifted, the night that took all those unspoken moments and turned them into something real, something heavy, something impossible to forget. It wasn't planned, it wasn't dramatic, it was just the two of us alone again, talking about life, about pressure, about expectations, about how sometimes you feel trapped by the roles people assign you, and there was a vulnerability in her voice that made me let my guard down, and before I could stop myself I shared things I'd never told anyone, things I'd buried, and the room felt smaller, quieter, like the rest of the world had stepped back and left us there. And that's when it happened, the moment where the air shifted, where I realized this wasn't just conversation anymore, this was something else, something deeper, and I remember the exact second I knew we were in dangerous territory, because my heart was pounding, my thoughts were racing, and instead of pulling away, neither of us did, and when the moment passed, when reality came rushing back in, we both knew we'd crossed a line, not because anyone had seen us, but because we felt it, and that's when the secret was born, fragile and heavy all at once, hanging between us like something alive. And later, when she pulled me close and whispered that promise, it didn't feel romantic or thrilling the way movies make it seem, it felt terrifying and comforting at the same time, because part of me was relieved that someone else was carrying this weight with me, and another part of me was screaming that this was wrong, that secrets like this don't stay buried forever. And after that night, nothing felt normal again. Every visit to the house felt different, every laugh with my best friend felt loaded with guilt, every time she was in the room my mind would race with 1,000 what-ifs, and I started overanalyzing everything, every word she said, every look, every moment of silence, wondering if she regretted it, wondering if she felt the same, wondering if I was just a mistake she was trying to forget, and the fear of being discovered became this constant background noise in my head, because secrets don't just sit quietly, they hum, they demand attention, they make you jump at shadows, and the worst part was how normal everything seemed on the surface. My best friend was still the same, trusting, joking, completely unaware, and that contrast made the guilt even sharper, because I was living two realities at once, one where everything was fine and one where everything was fragile, and I kept telling myself I'd fix it somehow, that I'd put distance between us, that I'd do the right thing, but emotions don't follow plans, and the closer I got to pulling away, the more complicated it felt, because there were moments where she'd look at me with something unreadable in her eyes, moments where I could tell she was struggling too, and then came the close call, the moment where everything nearly came crashing down, when my best friend walked in at the wrong time, or asked the wrong question, or noticed something just slightly off, and my heart nearly stopped as I scrambled to act normal, to laugh, to lie without saying a word, and afterward I realized I couldn't keep living like this, constantly afraid, constantly torn, because secrets like this don't just threaten relationships, they erode you from the inside, and that realization forced a decision, not an easy one, not a clean one, but a necessary one, whether that meant creating distance, redefining boundaries, or accepting consequences I didn't want to face, and in the end what stayed with me wasn't just the secret itself, but what it taught me about trust, about loyalty, about how easily lines blur when emotions get involved, and how silence can be just as powerful as words, because some secrets protect people, some secrets hurt them, and some change you forever, not because of what happened in that moment, but because of what you chose to carry afterward. And even now, when I think back to that whisper, to that promise to keep our secret safe, I realize the truth is that secrets are never really safe, they just wait, and what matters most is what they turn you into while you're holding them.